Exiting the Underdark. The camera opens on a dimly lit forest clearing just outside a cavern entrance. The four Rockseer elves, a pale gray slender tall elf race, being escorted by our heroes. Our heroes lead the Rockseers into the opening. The party of heroes consists of Ragnar, a deadly elf ranger with a bow, arrows, and two swords. Alistair, a hulking human paladin in shiny armor with a sword and shield. Regan, a human warrior in plate armor with his sword. Aether, a dwarf war priest with a battle axe. Thomas, a human cleric in armor with his long-handled hammer. Theo, male human mage. Alana, a female elf thief with her swords and bow beneath her purple cape. And Snagger, a beardless dwarf warrior. Following our heroes are four Rockseers. The Rockseers consists of Darfian, a deadly female elf warrior. Charmenderan, an elf male priest in red robes and small circlet crown. Frowen, a male elf wizard with a small beard and flowing white hair and braids. And Covinia, a female elf princess looking blondish white hair in royal fashion. Ragnar is pushed to the ground as a giant grizzly bear emerges from the bushes. It rises on his hind legs and falls upon Ragnar, causing Ragnar to fall onto his back with big bear paws on the ground to each side of his head. Pooh, the big grizzly bear, licked Ragnar, and they greeted each other with much love. Rockseers were scared and afraid, but the party of heroes explained the bond of Ragnar and Pooh. The Rockseers took in every detail of the trees, grass, shrubs, and minor animals. The Rockseers have never seen, touched, or smelled such, and even the moonlight impaired their vision. The party of heroes led the Rockseers deeper into the woods until they came to the newly renovated Broken Spire Keep. A new sign above the gates read, Keep of Heroes. Rockseers and our party of heroes rested through the day here, under the cover of a roofed room. Only a handful of critters impaired the 4-day journey to a gray elf community in the high forest of Shem. Once the Rockseers and our party of heroes reached the elven community, a feast and celebration that lasted many weeks began. Food, wine, singing, and dancing of elves filled the air. Ragnar and Alana stayed among the elven community, while Regan, Theo, Thomas, Alistair, Snagger, and Aether left for the town Milburn back in the Heronshire territory. This 4-day walk was filled with dangers and encounters. Evening of the first day's walk, an evil necromancer cleric caused all but Theo to become charmed into fighting each other. Theo levitated 20 feet up, covered the ground with ice, and blinded Regan, Thomas, Alistair, Snagger, and Aether. Aether slipped and fell on the ice, and Theo quickly hit Aether on the back of the head with his staff, knocking him unconscious. Regan attacked Snagger with a sword, but fell on the ice. Snagger tried to hit Aether, but fell down on the ice. Thomas remained on the icy ground, struggling to get up. Alistair remained with sword drawn, awaiting whomever decided to come his way. The party of heroes all came to their senses as this dark disciple priest came into view. Regan sent 2 arrows, and Aether sent a spear towards the priest, but they were deflected, and a ripple from the spell was seen. The dark disciple cleric began casting a spell, causing the ground to start turning up stones and dust in front of him, as if pulling some evil from the ground itself. Thomas cast Dispel Magic. The shield and the spell ended. Aether was rushing towards the dark disciple was withdrawn. Theo, while still levitated, and Thomas were preparing spells. Alistair, Snagger, and Regan all struggled to stay afoot while exiting the ice and closing into melee with the dark disciple. The dark disciple cast Flame Strike on Aether, doing some harsh damage. Theo unleashed magic missiles on the dark disciple. Thomas followed up with casting Flame Strike on the dark disciple. Aether, Snagger, Regan, and Alistair finished him with their swords. The dark disciple lay dead as 6 zombie orcs appeared. Aether called upon his deity, and the zombie orcs imploded and disappeared. Resting through that night and walking along the forest path much like a road, the next day they saw nothing beyond birds, bees, squirrels, and rabbits. Evening comes and 4 basilisks, 8-legged 20-foot giant crocodiles with a small horn at the end of their nose and stiff hair like a razorback from head to tail, appear coming toward our party as they make camp. Snagger wasted no time spotting them, but by looking at them he was stricken with a gaze and turned to stone immediately. Regan and Alistair engaged the basilisks with their swords. Aether, Thomas, and Theo remained back about 30 feet casting spells. Alistair was overwhelmed at the foul odor of the basilisk's breath and failing a saving throw, Alistair fell down dead. Regan found the continual light spell on his shield blinded the basilisks. Regan was backing away while blinding the basilisks when he tripped over the body of Alistair. Regan hit the ground, and when looking to see where the basilisks were, fearing he would be eaten, he locked eyes with a basilisk and was turned to stone immediately. The battle continued between the four basilisks. Aether, Thomas, and Theo, finally with a cause light wound spell. Thomas finished killing a basilisk. Aether sliced one's neck profusely, doing much damage, and again Thomas finished killing that basilisk. Theo cast a spell, killing the last basilisk. Theo using a scroll cast stone to flesh upon Regan, who was returned to flesh. A tiny cottage appeared, and the stone statue that was once Snagger was placed into the cottage. A makeshift cot from 2 poles and cloth was used to create a stretcher. Alistair was placed upon the stretcher. Regan and Aether each grabbed a pole and pulled their companion Alistair behind them. The cottage shrunk to a hand-sized item and was placed into Theo's pocket. Making camp the last time before reaching the town of Milburn, Regan, Aether, Theo, Thomas, see an aboleth, a 20-foot fish-like creature, 4 tentacles from near its head, each able to reach 10 feet each, 3 eyes one above the other with each one protected by a bony plate, a slimy residue in its path with a rancid grease smell. Thomas, Theo, Aether, and Regan ensued battle with the aboleth and killed it. They continued this night and through the next day, risking no more stops. Milburn, a city with a wooden palisade on all 4 sides, huge wooden gates barely open, men with boughs lined around the top of each wall watching, comes into view of our party of heroes. Inside the city of Milburn, Alistair is resurrected. Snagger is returned to flesh from his current stone state. Snagger and Aether join Grizzler, a battle-hardened dwarf warrior with a jug of ale. The 3 dwarves, Snagger, Aether, and Grizzler, all laugh and tell stories of their adventures so far. Thomas seeks time in the temple to contemplate and pray. Theo joins Tauster to learn more about spells and sagecraft. Regan speaks to notable citizens, telling what all has transpired, including letting Andrin and his father know about Jeleneth being taken further below. Alistair is resting and recovering within the temple. Ragnar and Alana escort the Rockseers back to the cave entrance and then go by themselves to Milburn. Ragnar, Alistair, Regan, Thomas, Theo, Snagger, and Aether all meet up at the local tavern and plan their next steps into the Underdark.